All right, yeah, let's jump into Russell Wilson trade rumors. So, first off, I want to say that he hasn't requested a trade. The organization hasn't said they're going to trade him, but it's been so strange because what they've been saying kind of sounds like he did request a trade. Because, Russell Wilson came out and gave his list of teams he would want to go to if he got traded. And then the team came out and said, this is the package we want if he's going to get traded. Like it's such a strange amount of information that's just coming out right now. And it kind of makes you feel like, you know, is this really real? Because when I first heard about it, I was like, no, there's no way they're going to trade Russell Wilson unless he requests out of there. They're not going to trade him. Like he's way too valuable of a player. But I think with Russell Wilson maybe feeling some type of way about how Pete Carroll kind of ended the year with that press conference, he was kind of saying they need to run more, and Russell Wilson feels like they need to use him more. Uh, I could definitely see frustration there between just the coach and the players, especially because they have so much more passing talent than they do running talent right now. Like they genuinely do need to um, run better routes. Most of the time, they just go deep. Like that's not going to work every single time. They need to run some better routes, get more creative with their route running, in my opinion. A lot of that falls on the offensive coach as well. But I didn't buy it until Russell Wilson came out and said, if I did get traded, I would like to be traded to, I believe he said, the Cowboys, the Bears, the Raiders, or the Saints. Like, that's not a good sign. Like, if you're pretty like content with your player and they haven't requested a trade, for them to come out and say, if I got traded, I would like to go here. It's just not a good look. It really isn't.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, that's really bad for, it really looks bad on both their parts, more so the franchise's part. But I was looking at some other things as well that he said. He did come outright and say he's pretty much frustrated with taking a lot of hits. His camp also went on to say that, he's upset that he was upset with the team's inability to get an offensive line around him. And that's what I was talking about with the JJ Watt
Mhm.
thing. If JJ Watt comes into, the NFC West, which he's going to with the Cardinals now,
Oh
and
yeah.
Russell Wilson keeps taking hits on hits, that's really bad. And I think this would probably make the Seahawks feel more inclined to get him a offensive line because as great as he's been playing great in spite of having despite having a bad offensive line and stuff like that. Crazy stat I saw that he has taken 394 sacks in his career. And they said that he has been sacked 100 more times than any other quarterback since he's been drafted. Um, that was crazy stat to hear. Obviously, the Seahawks front office tried to do a little bit of damage control, pretty much saying that they were not happy with him airing out his grievances. But I mean, if you get hit that many times, I mean, I'd be pretty mad too. I would say like, yo, I'm the franchise quarterback. Give me some help. You got some help, receivers wise, but you guys got to protect him. Like that's your money maker. If he wasn't on the Seahawks right now, that team would not be a playoff team. It's as simple as that. He made so many plays with his legs because his O line is so bad. Um, there was also other reports saying that he quote unquote, stormed out of a meeting with coaches as they dismissed his approaches to fix the offense. They said the week they played Arizona for Thursday night football. I don't know if that reports are true or not, but I don't know what the situation is because you were saying that it is kind of weird for him to say, "Oh, if I was to be traded, I would like to go to these teams." I just feel like maybe they're trying to keep a muzzle on Wilson. I know one of his teammates this past week came out and straight up said, I think it was KJ Wright, the linebacker for the Seahawks, straight up says like Russ ain't going anywhere. So I don't know what the situation is. I don't know, how it's going to play out. I don't see him being traded. Um, but obviously, anything can happen nowadays, it feels like. But we are in a certain period of time in the NFL season, and I like to call this the smoke screen season. Right after the postseason, right before the off season, Just a lot of things are being said, a lot of rumors, just a lot of smoke, but no fire, because I was also seeing some other things about there's teams having, Zach Wilson higher than Trevor Lawrence on certain QBs coming into the draft or coming on the draft. And obviously, like, Trevor Lawrence is the best quarterback in that draft. To have Zach Wilson over, it's just smokescreen. They're trying to get people nervous, people thinking, and stuff like that. So how I see this part of the season and this whole, Russell Wilson trade rumor, it's just smoke, all a bunch of smoke. So I don't see much coming from it, but it is very interesting to see the progression and the things being reported. Because to have, if it's like just in a reporter, I understand, like, oh, you're just saying things, but to have Adam Schefter kind of be the guy saying all these things, that dude holds a lot of power. He's one of the top reporters for the NFL. So to hear him saying a lot of this stuff, it's definitely something you want to keep your eye on this offseason for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, look, we got to give props to Russell Wilson for playing all these years. He really hasn't really even ever had a great O-line. Like, he's really never been protected. He still wins games for them. The Seahawks, the problem with them is they don't really have a lot of cap space right now. I believe they only have about $5 million in cap space, but they need to find some ways to clear up some cap because there are some pretty decent offensive line free agents in this offseason. Brandon Scherf, Joe Thuney, Trent Williams, Russell Okung. They need to get one of these guys. They need to. Otherwise, Russell Wilson is he's going to get even more frustrated than he already is. I do think that this is a lot of smoke. I think his agent is trying to put pressure on the Seahawks, trying to get them trying to push them to make them get better. But at the same time, I do think there's a hint of truth in where he wants to end up because wasn't he a Cowboys fan growing up?
I've heard reports of that before. I'm not 100% sure, but I have heard about that.
Yeah, I thought I remember hearing somewhere about, he was a Cowboys fan growing up. So the Cowboys make sense for that reason. I wouldn't go there for a bunch of other reasons, but if he just wants to go play on his like childhood favorite team, like that makes sense. And all these other teams are solid teams that they might even be a quarterback away from legitimate contention. So I do think most of it's just smoke, like you said, but I do believe there's a hint of truth as well. And I believe the franchise said they wanted at least 3 first-rounders. I believe that's true as well. But at the same time, like you said, these kind of feel like threats, like from both sides. Like through the franchise is like, okay, yeah, we will trade you if we get if we get a good enough package. And Russell Wilson's like, okay, if you want to trade me, I want to go to these teams and I won't play for anybody else. And so only those teams will really be in the hunt to try and snag him, most likely. But yeah, it's a very strange situation.
Yeah, it's kind of like you are kind of put in a good saying it in a good way. It's kind of like they're in deadlock pretty much because I think at the end of the day, what he really wants is just an offensive line, and obviously they don't want to get rid of their best player. So it's like I don't know. Like I said, I don't know where this is going to progress. I mean, hopefully they do end up finding some way to get him some help on the offensive line. They could make a trade for certain other pieces. I know trading will probably be their best bet at this point because, like you said, they don't have as much money in the cap space room. So I don't know how they will address it, but it's something that they need to address. They did have an offensive lineman who did just retire this past few weeks. He was not very good, I heard. I've seen some of his film this past season. He used to be a Pro Bowler, but used to be, and now he's definitely fallen off the ladder a bit. So maybe that could open up some space for them to potentially look into getting, some more help on the offensive line. But I don't know. Russell Wilson, this is not in his character. He's been such a humble guy from day one, it feels like. So I think if anyone messed up in this situation, it's definitely the Seahawks. I feel like some things are definitely being done incorrectly behind the scenes. Let's just hope that that both of them can win in this situation. And then by that, they get this man offensive line.
Yeah, and I think, the organization kind of has to pick between, in my opinion at least, Pete Carroll and the offensive coordinator or Russell Wilson. That's what it feels like they're picking between for me. Because obviously the team that Pete Carroll wants, his roster isn't built for the kind of team he wants. He's not a run. They're not a run heavy based team. They have more talent at their wide receivers, at their passing in general, than they do running. And without an offensive line, the run game also can't work well. So the offensive line's the foundation for the entire offense, and so it's hard to get an effective run game and an effective passing game. But let's be real, they have more talented wide receivers than they do talented running backs. And if they pick Pete Carroll and the offensive coordinator over Russell Wilson, genuinely, I think that would be an extremely bad move, because quarterbacks are the ones who win you Super Bowls at this point. Like, let's be honest. The Bucks aren't winning the Super Bowl this year without Tom Brady. The Chiefs weren't winning the Super Bowl last year without Patrick Mahomes. Quarterbacks are the ones who come in there and they really win you the games. So yeah, the Seahawks, they need to get their act together, or else they're going to lose Wilson and they're going to be out of contention for a while until they can find another quarterback. They're going to be in limbo like the Panthers are, or like the football team's kind of in limbo right now as well. But speaking of the football team, let's jump into our last little bit of NFL news, unless you have some final thoughts.
There was one thing. I just felt like Pete Carroll wants to go back to running the ball, because when they did win Super Bowl, they were more of a run-heavy team. But times have changed. His best receivers were Jermaine Kearse and Doug Baldwin. Now he has Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf. Like, these are much better athletes. And I don't want to take anything away from the older players they had, but these guys are different. So we'll have to see. But I do want to.
I think Pete Carroll's a little traumatized. I think he's gotten blasted so heavily for not running the ball in that last Super Bowl that now he just wants to run the ball every single possession if he can. Like, I just feel like, I don't know, something like he really wants to go back to his old roster, but that's not what they have right now. And he just needs to adapt. If he doesn't adapt, the Seahawks won't go anywhere. Simple as that.